All right, so Ticos are a special nail. They're typically an inch and a half long, and then the shank, the diameter of the shank, is 0.148 inches. Okay? There's not a whole lot to say about Ticos other than they're specifically used for hangers and brackets, okay, metal connectors like this. I don't know what this thing's called, A35 or something like that, but there's all these Simpson strong tie products. I mentioned it before. It's going to come up a lot. Okay, it's heavily utilized in construction. It's a metal strap, metal bracket, and we use Ticos to nail through pre-drilled holes in this bracket and connect these components together. Okay, so what is happening here? Looks like we're underneath the staircase right now. It looks like this is the stair jack, and then this is connecting the risers to the stair jack or something. I can't really tell what's going on, but generally we're only using Ticos in conjunction with these metal fasteners. Okay. Most of the time they're driven by hand. There's also a special gun that you can buy. Unfortunately, it's a special nail gun that takes strips of Tico nails, and it's got a little indicator on the end that you kind of feel around with that indicator, and once it pokes into one of the pre-punched holes in that bracket, then you can press it in, pull the trigger, and it'll shoot the nail. Much faster. Lots of broken fingers with these Tico nails. Okay, they're short. You're in this tight space. It's kind of awkward trying to nail it. You start the nail, accidentally hit your finger and break it. It's kind of a bummer. So, we try and do other things when it comes to these Ticos. Finish nails are special nails that either don't have a head or have a very small head. And what that means is that we can countersink the nails, drive them below the surface of the wood, and fill them with putty or spackle or something like that. Okay? We want to use finish nails if they're going to be seen for the most part. Okay? So we're hanging a door, we're nailing up some trim inside, something like that. We want to use finish nails. We want to countersink the nail, fill the head, and we want to conceal the fact that there's a nail there, okay? Depending on the size of the finish nail, there's a little indentation, a little cup inside the head, maybe. Okay, for really small finish nails, there's not really much of a head at all. It's just one continuous shank, okay? For bigger finish nails, longer finish nails, there's going to be a tiny little head with a little dish in it, okay? One of the tools that we're going to utilize in carpentry is called a nail set. Some people call it a punch, but that's not a very appropriate term. It's called a nail set, and we use it to set nails below the surface. There are different sizes of nail sets, and the different sizes correspond to the thickness of the point at the end of the nail set, okay? So if we have a nail set that has a kind of a blunt end on it, it's going to have an indented end, a little cup that's going to fit over the head of a small finish nail and allow us to drive that in, okay? Pay attention, maybe rewind this and watch it again because it's counterintuitive and a lot of people do this backwards. But the bigger nail sets fit over the small finish nails and you drive them and countersink them, okay? The finer tip nail set, the smaller tip nail set fits inside the cup of these bigger finish nails, and that's how we drive the finish nail below the surface, okay? When we talk about brad nails, those are specifically nails that are going to go in a nail gun. Okay, and again, there's a special nail gun. There's lots of special nail guns that take different sizes of brads. Okay, if you really want to get outfitted and have every nail gun there is to own, you're going to have 10 different nail guns. Okay, brad nails are connected to each other. Okay, this strip of brad nails, they're all connected. Okay, there's a thin adhesive or a piece of tape or something like that that's holding all of these nails together. You slide it into the nail gun, and each time you pull the trigger, it advances that strip of nails. Okay. So brad nails is still sometimes called finish nails, but brad nails, specifically finish nails that are going to go in a nail gun. Okay. So they're sized according to length and also according to the gauge. And so this is where it can get kind of tricky, but every time we're talking about building materials and we're referring to the gauge of the materials, the higher the number, the smaller the nail, or the thinner the nail, I guess it is, okay? So an 18 gauge nail is not going to be as thick as a 15 gauge nail, okay? They have 23 gauge nails also, okay? So you have to buy brad nails that correspond with the type of nail gun that you own, okay? So again, put it another way, the lower the number, the bigger the diameter of the nail, okay? We're going to use these mostly for interior finish work. Okay? We can, most of the time when we get finished nails, they're either not going to be galvanized, or if they are galvanized, they're going to be electro-galvanized, which isn't going to be enough. It isn't going to hold up in our damp, humid Pacific Northwest conditions. Okay, they'll rust. Okay, they can't really make hot dip galvanized finish nails because that zinc coating is really rough and it's difficult for the nails to advance. It's difficult to keep the nails together in a strip. Okay, what you can do is you can get stainless steel brad nails. They're just very, very expensive. But if you're going to be nailing, if you're going to be using it outside, if you're going to be nailing redwood, you have to use the stainless steel finish nails. There's really no way around it. These are duplex nails. As you can see, these nails have two heads, okay? Duplex, two. These are almost always used for concrete formwork. And the reason they have two heads is you drive the nail in until this first head sits against the wood or whatever the material is. This is going to project out, and it's easy to come back with a crowbar or your hammer and pull that nail out, okay? They're designed to be removed easily and quickly, okay? Most commonly, we're going to use either 16s or 8s. Those are far and away the most common sizes of duplex nails. When we use 8 duplex nails, it's to nail a stake, either a metal stake or a wood stake, into a form board. And if you don't know what I'm talking about yet, wait until we get into like concrete form construction. But 8 duplexes are used for stake to formwork connection. 16 duplexes are used for form to form connection. So if we're nailing 2 pieces of dimensional lumber together, say we're building an outside corner with our form boards, doing some concrete form work, we'll use 16 duplex to attach those together. And I didn't mention this earlier, but generally 16 nails are about 3.5 inches long. 8 nails are generally about 2.5 inches long. And what we're always trying to accomplish with any sort of fastener is we want to have 1 inch of penetration, okay? And excuse me, I said 16 for 3.5. They're more like 4 inches, okay? So if we take 2 pieces of 2x lumber and nail them together, okay, we have 1.5 inches and 1.5 inches. That's 3 inches nailed together, okay? We would want to have 1 inch of penetration there, okay? So 3.5 to 4 inches, depending on the kind of nail we get. But generally, that's about the length of those. Screws most of the time that we're going to use them in our program is going to be for temporary fastening of materials. Okay. We almost always are going to need like a separate tool, like a drill or a driver or something like that, that we have to carry around with us if we want to use screws. And that's either going to require batteries or an extension cord. Okay. Like I said before, screws are really slow. Screws are really expensive. And they're much more brittle. Okay? Nails are able to resist loads that are placed on them, whereas screws want to just break. Okay? So we'll talk about these though, because you're going to encounter these in the industry, and we will use them in the program, but for very specific circumstances. Okay? So there's going to be different lengths of screws, different heads. Like this is called like I think they call this a flathead screw. There are finished screws that have like a really small head that can be countersunk below the surface. There's pan heads that will kind of have a dome on top of the surface and give it some extra holding power. So lots of variation, lots of different styles. We'll talk a little bit about those. So this is the classic drywall screw. They're almost always a Phillips drive. Homeowners tend to use them for everything. Okay, we're building a deck, go get a box of drywall screws. Building a fence, go get a box of drywall screws. Building a chicken coop, drywall screws. Okay, drywall screws are good for one thing: drywall. Okay, you shouldn't use them for anything else unless you're just doing something temporarily. Okay, Phillips head screws used to be the pinnacle of screw technology, and they've been surpassed by the Torx head or the Star Drive. Okay, you have to still be driving these pretty straight with your driver if you don't want to strip out the screw or break the screw or slip out of the screw. Okay, these screws, these Torx head screws, are awesome. You can drill at an angle. You don't have to drill straight in. They're very, very versatile. Okay, if I'm gonna be using screws for something, I'm just automatically gonna get Torx head screws. Let me jump back to Phillips real quick. There's a 1, 2, and 3 Phillips screw. Okay, the Phillips screw is always this cross. Okay, this plus sign, and the size of that plus sign is either a 1, a 2, or a 3. And there will be different Phillips bits, Phillips 1, Phillips 2, Phillips 3, that correspond to that. Okay, Phillips 3 is the biggest one, 2 is the intermediate size, 1 is a smaller head screw. Okay, the way that the Torx screws are described is with the letter T and then a number after that. So T10 is a pretty small screw, T15 is pretty small, T20, T25 are the general purpose, most common Torx screws you're going to get. And then they go up to 30, 35, 40. They get pretty big, okay? The size of the head, all right? This is a slotted screw. Some people call this a flathead screw. This has a very special purpose, there's this very specific use for slotted screws, and that is interior finish work, okay? If we're going to see the screw, okay, let's say it's on a light fixture, cover plates, if we're going to see the screw, use slotted screws. It's a traditional look, okay? It looks appropriate, okay? I guess, it's free country, you can use whatever you want, but slotted screws are the preferred screw for interior finish work, okay? One more thing about that, they should always be oriented vertically, okay? When you put in a slotted screw and you're done, the slot should be going in this direction, okay? One more screw that you may or may not come across is the Robertson screw. Some people call it the square drive. I would just avoid these. It seems like a good idea, and it seems like they're not going to strip, but they're not that great. They're kind of junky, okay? Phillips Robertson screws are about the same thing. If you're driving screws, use Torx. If you're doing interior finish work, use a slotted screw. Okay, so kind of to wrap this all up, we touched on a lot of different things here. We discussed pretty much learning outcomes for this course. Okay, the course learning outcomes, the first one is define terms used in residential construction. Okay, I think we talked about a lot of different things. I defined them. I talked about some of the misconceptions that people have. We need to be able to talk about things and use appropriate terminology. Okay, we need to be able to communicate with our coworkers, with people in the general public. We need to be able to go to the lumberyard and ask for the thing that we need and have it make sense to people. Okay, and then this was pretty introductory, and we'll go over a lot of this stuff more in depth, but just kind of raising an awareness about the materials that we're going to encounter in carpentry. Okay, and again, like I said, we will go over these in much more detail, but please feel free to send me an email with any questions that you might have, and thanks for watching.